The morning started like any other. My alarm buzzing, my cracked phone screen lighting up with the soft blue glow that meant another long day of job applications and side gigs. I was 26, living in the house I swore I'd never returned to, saving every penny for a small apartment for me and my future. My phone wasn't just a phone. It was everything. My job, my resume, my portfolio, my proof that I was trying. But in that house, trying never mattered. "Lauren," my mom shouted from the kitchen. "Come here." I walked in, already knowing that tone, the one that carried a mix of authority and venom. She was leaning against the counter, her phone in her hand, scrolling through something with a smile that never reached her eyes. My sister Jenna sat at the table in her usual pink robe, sipping juice, legs crossed like she was posing for a lifestyle ad. Jenna's friends are planning a weekend brunch in Chicago. Mom said casually, like she was announcing a wedding. She needs some extra cash for the trip. I blinked. Okay. Mom looked up, her expression sharpening. "You've got that iPhone. You can sell it and give her the money." My stomach twisted. "What? Mom, this phone's how I apply for work. It's how I get interviews." "I can't." "Don't talk back." She cut me off sharply. "Your sister's been stressed. She deserves a break. You're home all day. What do you need a phone for? You've got no job, no boyfriend, no life to ruin." Jenna smirked, not even looking at me. It's not like she's going to get hired anywhere. Who wants a dropout with a resume full of rejections? "I didn't drop out," I said quietly, the words trembling in my mouth. "I couldn't afford tuition anymore because you stopped paying halfway through." That made Mom move fast. She slammed her hand down on the counter and pointed at me. "Don't you start your pity act here. We fed you, didn't we? We let you live under our roof after you failed. The least you can do is give something back to your family." "My phone isn't something I can give back," I said, taking a step backward. "I need it." Her eyes darkened. "You ungrateful brat." Before I could move, she lunged forward. Her hand snatched the phone out of my hand with shocking speed, nails digging into my skin. I froze as she turned it over in her palm, then looked straight into my eyes. That quiet, cold fury I'd seen so many times as a child flickered back. "So, you'd rather keep this piece of metal than help your sister? You think you're better than her because you're desperate?" Jenna laughed. "Mom, don't waste your energy. She'll never change." And that's when Mom's voice turned into something almost theatrical. "You think the world owes you, Lauren. You think people care about your effort. News flash. Nobody does. You're nothing. You'll always be nothing." I barely had time to take a breath before she raised her arm and brought the phone down hard against my face. The world went white for a second. Then pain exploded in my mouth. I stumbled backward, clutching my lips, tasting metal. Not from the phone, but from my own blood. The phone shattered on the tile, glass scattering across the floor. My reflection blinked back at me in 1,000 sharp pieces. I could hear Jenna laughing behind her hand, whispering, "Guess that's what ambition gets you." My mother stood over me, her breathing calm, her voice low and icy. "Next time I ask for something, you don't argue. You don't talk. You obey. That's how you survive here." She walked away, her slippers squeaking faintly as if nothing had happened. Jenna picked up the broken phone, smirking at the cracked screen, then tossed it into the trash bin like it was a candy wrapper. I sat there for a long time, bleeding, humiliated, trembling. The house felt colder than I remembered, even though the sun was still up. That night, when everyone was asleep, I sat on the edge of my bed and stared at the small pieces of my phone I had salvaged. My lips throbbed, but my anger throbbed louder. I'd been hit before, humiliated before, but this was different. Something inside me finally stopped trying to please them. It wasn't about the phone anymore. It was about dignity. And I promised myself, not out loud, not with words, but with that deep quiet that burns hotter than any scream. that they would never again see me as their servant, their joke, or their punching bag. They had drawn blood to remind me of my place, and I was about to show them I didn't belong in theirs. I spent the next 2 weeks in silence, not because I'd forgiven them, but because silence was safer. Every time I looked at the mirror, the faint bruise under my lip reminded me who I was living with. My mother called it discipline. My sister called it karma. I called it the last straw. I worked quietly, pulling double shifts at the local cafe, pretending I was saving up for rent while secretly piecing together a new phone from used parts. I bought online. It wasn't perfect. The camera barely worked, and the screen had a thin black line running through the middle. But it was mine. Mine and no one's to destroy again. Mom and Jenna noticed. Of course. They always did. Who gave you that? Mom asked one night, folding her arms as I came home late. I bought it. I replied softly. With what money? She snapped. You stealing from my purse now? No, from my paycheck. Jenna scoffed from the couch, chewing chips. Paycheck? Please. She probably begged some old man for it. That sentence hung in the air like poison. My fists clenched so hard they hurt. But I didn't speak. Not one word. Because the more silent I became, the more they wanted to break me. The quieter I got, the less control they had. I started saving every tip, every spare coin for a small studio in the next town over. The landlord didn't care that I didn't have family references. He looked at my bruised lip, then just nodded and said, "You'll fit right in here." The day I packed my bag, Mom stood in the doorway, blocking my path. "Where do you think you're going?" I found a place. Her eyes narrowed. "Oh, so you think you're grown now? You think you can just leave after everything we did for you?" "Everything?" I asked quietly. "You mean the beatings, the insults, the way you made me bleed because I wouldn't sell my phone for Jenna's brunch?" Her voice went cold. "Don't twist the story, Lauren. You brought that on yourself. I told you selfishness has consequences." "Yeah," I said, stepping around her. "And so does cruelty." Jenna's voice floated from the living room. "Don't worry, Mom. She'll be back in a week. She can't survive without being told what to do." I looked at her, the same sister who used to borrow my clothes, my notebooks, my hope, and said, "You're right. I won't survive here. That's why I'm leaving." When I shut the door, I thought it would feel freeing. It didn't. Not at first. It felt like stepping off a cliff with no parachute. But that night, as I lay on a mattress in my tiny studio, the silence was different. Peaceful. Mine. Years passed. I built something from that silence. I took every humiliation they ever threw at me and turned it into fuel. I freelanced, coded websites, worked tech repair jobs. The irony was lost on me that the girl whose phone was once shattered now fixed devices for a living. Eventually, I started my own small repair business. Word spread, clients grew. I opened my own workshop. Nothing fancy, but the glass walls gleamed and the neon sign out front read L or Tech Repair in bold white letters. And then one afternoon, as rain hit the windows like whispers from the past, the door opened. My mother walked in. Her once perfect hair was gray and tangled. Her eyes darted around nervously. Behind her, Jenna followed, clutching a dead phone in her manicured hand. For a second, it felt like time reversed. I could smell that same air from years ago. The cheap detergent, the stale authority, the tension that never left. But now I wasn't small. I wasn't scared. "Lauren," Mom's voice trembled. "We need help. Your father left." Jenna's phone stopped working. We didn't know where else to go. I stayed quiet, setting down the screwdriver in my hand. My heart wasn't racing. It was steady, calm in the way a storm feels before lightning strikes. "You fix phones, right?" Jenna said with that old superiority, though her tone wavered now. "Just fix it. It's important." I looked at the phone, cracked across the middle the same way mine had once been. The irony almost made me laugh. I met her eyes and said, "It'll take time." "How much?" "Depends. I said, my voice low. Some things can't be fixed once they're shattered. Mom swallowed. Please, Lauren. We're sorry. You don't know what we've been through. No, I said evenly. You don't know what I went through. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just placed their phone on the counter and walked away into the back room. I left them standing there, the two people who once called me worthless, surrounded by the faint hum of electronics and regret. For the first time in my life, I didn't want revenge. I didn't need it. Watching them squirm in their own helplessness was enough. But what came next? That was the real reckoning. The next morning, I came back to the shop early. The rain had stopped, but the streets still glistened with puddles reflecting the gray sky. I half expected them to be gone, but there they were, sitting in the waiting area. My mother, restless, rubbing her palms together. Jenna scrolling through her cracked phone like it still worked, pretending she had any control left. They looked smaller now, quieter. Funny how people shrink when the world stops giving them what they think they deserve. Mom stood when she saw me. Lauren, honey, I didn't want things to turn out like this. I kept my tone flat. Like what? Her lips trembled. We were just strict. We wanted you to be better. You were always so stubborn. Strict, I echoed. You shattered my phone into my mouth, Mom. You watched me bleed while Jenna laughed. You called it discipline. You called me useless. That wasn't strict. That was cruelty dressed as control. Jenna's eyes flashed. You're being dramatic. It wasn't even that bad. Say that again, I said, stepping closer. Her mouth snapped shut. For the first time in my life, I didn't want revenge. I didn't need it. Watching them squirm in their own helplessness was enough. But what came next? That was the real reckoning. The next morning, I came back to the shop early. The rain had stopped, but the streets still glistened with puddles reflecting the gray sky. I half expected them to be gone, but there they were, sitting in the waiting area. My mother, restless, rubbing her palms together. Jenna scrolling through her cracked phone like it still worked, pretending she had any control left. They looked smaller now, quieter. Funny how people shrink when the world stops giving them what they think they deserve. Mom stood when she saw me. Lauren, honey, I didn't want things to turn out like this. I kept my tone flat. Like what? Her lips trembled. We were just strict. We wanted you to be better. You were always so stubborn. Strict, I echoed. You shattered my phone into my mouth, Mom. You watched me bleed while Jenna laughed. You called it discipline. You called me useless. That wasn't strict. That was cruelty dressed as control. Jenna's eyes flashed. You're being dramatic. It wasn't even that bad. Say that again, I said, stepping closer. Her mouth snapped shut. For a moment, the only sound in the shop was the faint buzz of an old fluorescent light above us. I could see the reflection of all three of us in the front window. Them desperate, me calm. The power shift was complete. Mom finally broke the silence. We lost everything, Lauren. The house, the money. Your father left after the debt collectors came. Jenna's phone stopped working. We can't even pay the rent. We thought maybe. She hesitated, swallowing hard. Maybe you'd let us stay here just for until we get back on our feet. The irony was almost too much. Years ago, I begged for a bed to sleep in, a place that didn't smell like resentment and cigarette smoke. I begged them for kindness, and they told me no. Now it was their turn. I walked behind the counter and leaned forward, my hands resting on the cool glass. Stay here, I repeated softly. You mean in the same space where you called me trash, where you said I didn't deserve to breathe the same air as my sister. Mom's face fell. I was angry. You know how parents say things they don't mean? Do they usually make their kids bleed for saying no? I said. Her jaw quivered. She looked down. No answer. I walked to the back, grabbed a small cardboard box, and placed their broken phone inside. Here's your phone. I fixed it overnight. Jenna reached for it, muttering, Finally, something useful you did. But when she pressed the power button, the screen lit up and a slideshow began playing. Photo after photo, images from my past. The night I'd bled on the kitchen floor. The day I moved out. The tiny apartment. The broken phone. The bruises I used to hide under makeup. And then the final photo, a picture of my new home. A bright 2-story building with glass doors and a logo etched in silver that read LR Innovations. Jenna's face paled. What is this? I smiled faintly. That's my company. Tech development, repair, and consulting. You're in one of my local shops right now. Mom blinked rapidly, stammering. You own this? I built this? I corrected. While you laughed about my failures, I turned them into blueprints. Every insult became a design. Every bruise a reason. Their silence said more than words ever could. Jenna finally whispered, So what? You're rich now. You think that makes you better than us. I took a deep breath and looked her dead in the eye. No, Jenna, it doesn't make me better, but it means I never have to be your equal again. Mom tried to step forward, tears forming. Please, Lauren, just let us stay. We have nowhere to go. I nodded slowly. I know the feeling. I walked to the front door, unlocked it, and gestured toward the street. There's a shelter 2 blocks down. They help people get back on their feet. Maybe they'll do what you never did for me. Mom's hand shook as she reached out, but I stepped back. Don't touch me, I said quietly. Not again. Jenna glared. You'll regret this. Maybe, I said, but at least I'll sleep without hearing my own mother laugh while I bleed. They left. Without another word, their footsteps splashing through puddles, fading into the distance. I stood by the window for a long time, watching the rain start again, light at first, then heavier, until the world outside blurred into streaks of silver. For years, I thought revenge meant screaming back, hurting them like they hurt me. But it wasn't. It was this, standing tall, watching the people who broke me walk away from what they thought was theirs. Powerless, desperate, forgotten. I locked the door, turned off the sign, and looked at my reflection in the glass. My lips still carried the faint scar where the phone had once split them. Now it looked like a reminder not of pain, but of proof. Proof that sometimes survival is the loudest revenge.